Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast, episode 40 with Charlie and Justin. Justin, I can't say hi to you in person, so I have to say what's up over the air.
Yes, how you doing, buddy?
No, I'm well. So Justin is currently on vacation. Where are you again? Myrtle Beach?
I'm in Myrtle Beach, yep.
That's
Arrived
awesome.
Yesterday about 4:30.
One of my favorite places in the world. It's a tie, and there's such polarity between these two places. The two of my favorite places that I've ever been. And this is coming from someone who's traveled literally all around the world. I think my two favorite places are probably Switzerland and Myrtle Beach. And I know that
you really have been all over the world.
And people think it's crazy, based on all the countries that I've been to, that I would say Myrtle Beach. But with the seafood and all the outdoor places and the sun and the beach, I mean, there's nothing that beats it. I absolutely love it. So one of my favorite places on earth.
We really enjoy it. We've been coming to this hotel. My wife's family's been coming to this hotel for 40 years. Mm-hmm. And it's like we are like the fifth generation, I think. Fourth or fifth generation of people that, great grandkids, and, so it's cool because everybody at the hotel knows us, and it's just a little hotel that we technically own a timeshare here. So, but it's a wee little hotel, outside hallways, real small parking lot, but my room's like 27 feet from the sand, literally. Like if I take 27 steps, I'm standing in sand.
Awesome.
So you just can't beat it.
Yeah, it sounds nice and relaxing, mentally and physically.
Right, absolutely. So let's talk about my day this morning.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to start with. Talk about how you're training out there now. Then
today I just went for a run because we had stuff to get done to prepare for the week. So I got up this morning and I had stuff. I actually brought weights from home. I brought a curl bar and I brought a kettlebell in a sandbag, but I'm going to use them on Monday, starting Monday. I got up this morning and went for a run about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Actually felt good. I haven't ran in a long time. I've been doing a lot of walking, but I haven't done much running. And my knee's a little sore, but it felt good. And I got a good sweat going. And it's crazy down here. Like, there's such a diverse population, but everybody is polite.
Mm-hmm.
Southern even at 5:30 in the morning. Right. Even at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, when the people outside, that they're going to work or coming from work, or they're hungover.
Yep.
Are still waving at you and saying good morning and how you doing and go get it. And it's like, man, I wish we had a half of this at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how's your training been?
It's been good. Everything's going well. I haven't had the need to change anything. I know we talked about this a couple episodes ago, and it still holds true that honestly, since my show in November, which at this point was creeping up on almost a year from now in a couple months, and I still haven't had to change anything training wise. There's a couple exercises that I rotated out just because of like stalling or lack of progress. But other than that, everything's pretty much stayed the same, which is good. I think I talked about this earlier too, was upping the volume, the weekly volume a little bit. So instead of going 3 days a week, because for the longest time I was going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and now I've done Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So I've added another day into the rotation, but ultimately it's still pretty low volume because I'm taking off 3 of the 7 days of the week for rest, which is allowing me to train harder, train heavier. So yeah, man, everything's pretty much the same, which is a good thing. We talk about it all the time, how no news is good news sometimes when it comes to training or nutrition. If you're continuing to do the same thing and you're actually getting similar results from it, that's good.
Right. Absolutely. That's funny. Like my training's been very, very the same. And I went back through my notebook because I had some time this morning waiting for my wife to wake up, and I was looking through my notebook of training, and literally I write my training down every day. So like I know yesterday was a push day, so today's a pull day. I'm hypothetically speaking, I write it down in the morning. I don't go back and look. I just know what I'm going to do, but I have tracked pretty much the same since I started this new gym. I've tracked pretty much the same movements every day on the same day of the week for 8 weeks, 9 weeks, something like that, or even longer. I don't know how long it's been. And I went and I was looking, and there's like a steady, just very steady, either rep or weight going up every week,
Yep.
every workout basically. So it's just that just proves that progressive overload really works.
What about when you go off to a different gym or somewhere separate? Because I've always been one of those people where I write everything down, of course, and track everything. But when I go to another gym, aside from the one that I regularly train at, I will never log that training because there's so many differences that you don't account for. Like obviously 50 pounds is 50 pounds, 100 pounds is 100 pounds, but different machines, and even
Right.
something as minuscule as the bar, getting used to the bar, and where the
So
rings are on the bar, it's so different. And when you're tracking and fighting tooth and nail for a rep or an extra 5 pounds on a weekly basis, those different variables, like how tall the bench is, how wide the bench is, little things like that can make a
really
big
matter.
difference. Yeah. So I try not to mess up my numbers by logging things when I'm training in a facility that's away from what I usually do. But at the same time, one of the other reasons that I like not logging my training then is because I like to try equipment that I haven't used before.
Right, absolutely. So I keep 2 or 3 pages in the back of my notebook where I'll write down some notes. Um, I'm going to start writing notes down this week because I'm going to do a lot of beach workouts.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, might as well take advantage of it. I've never been able to in my entire life, even if I wanted to back then. So now that I physically can, I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to work out on the beach every day and see how it feels. So, anyways, I'm going to track that stuff on its own, not in progression with my normal. That way, at the end of the year, we can look back and say, okay, this was cool. And then next year, when I come down here again, I'll do it again and see what the differences are throughout the year and how they changed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I thought that's how I would do it. But yeah, I don't track unless I'm using the exact same equipment and the exact same gym and facility. I don't track the same stuff.
I think that it may even be and maybe I'm just over analytical here, but I think that in some regard it may even be an injury risk if you're trying to push, again for one more rep or 5 more pounds or the slightest bit of improvement from last training session, and you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to strive for that in a situation that's less than ideal or less than what you're used to. I think that there could be some injury risks there too.
I agree.
Maybe not a huge risk, but still you kind of want to minimize it while you can, and never put too much emphasis on it. But so what about the diet then? What are you going to do with that?
I plan on staying keto. I got my strips. I'm gonna do my best to stay in ketosis. Obviously, shopping down here was a little different, so I didn't get my whole entire list that I normally get, but I'm keeping it relatively close to what I've been doing. That way, there's not a whole lot of variables to change because I don't want to, see like some gastric issues or whatever, any kind of digestion issues. And then, how my brain works. As soon as I see an issue, I want to throw a solution at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that to even be a thing because you know how that is. If something's different, then you can't change a bunch of variables and then try to fix a problem.
Well,
So,
especially because you may misread or misinterpret what your body's telling you or what you're seeing because of the fact that you're on vacation. So you're out of routine, at least to some degree. You're not training at the same gym. You may not be going to sleep and waking up at the exact same time. So your schedule is a lot different than what it normally is. So you're going to have things that are changing, either most likely, I don't want to say for the worse, because it's not like progress is going to halt and all these things, but it's a less than optimal circumstance when you're on vacation. I think that if you see things
right.
changing, you may try to throw too many solutions at them, and they don't necessarily need solutions. The only solution they need is you going back to normal in a week or a week and a half.
Yeah, that's the plan actually too, is I'm going to do the best I can to keep my body functioning the way it should, the way it feels good. And then when I get home, just pick up on a push day and follow my diet the way I have been. And I think because I really actually am enjoying this keto.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I was going to be honest. We started this as a experiment, just so I had an argument, to be able to argue with people, not argue so much as talk about facts from a factual standpoint, because I know what I'm talking about because I've done
Yep.
it. And now I'm moving more towards, I know I kind of like it. You know what I mean? Like, I like the way I feel. I like the energy level that I have, which is crazy because I thought that I was going to be tired.
Mm-hmm.
And after the first week, I wasn't tired at all.
Yeah,
So I did.
a lot of
Go ahead.
people will say that they have the energy boost, and a little bit of like mental clarity and stuff. Once you switch over and you become fat adaptive and you're in ketosis, once you make that switch over, people notice it's almost like the curtains are open and you feel significantly better.
Right. And I do. I really do feel significantly better. Now I do notice that in the gym, the pumps are way different. Like, I can like before keto on my back and bicep day, I always finished with like a huge superset of hammer curls, plate curls, and some kind of a cable curl,
Mm-hmm.
like a big monster superset. And it's the only thing that I'd actually see a pump, because I still have, a lot of loose skin and subcutaneous fat and stuff in my arms. So I don't get like that big pump like somebody who's real lean does. But I actually would see a pump from that. And with the keto, I'm not getting that, veiny pump,
Yep.
so to speak. But which whatever. I mean, that's not the goal right now. The goal is to lose weight. So and stay and maintain or gain some strength. So
And
I'm
plus,
like,
sometimes those good biofeedback markers can actually get taken, out of their corrective context. So like you'll have people, so take the pump, for example. It feels good when you have a pump, when your muscles swell and you got a lot of blood flow to the area and stuff, and you feel huge. But sometimes chasing the pump and doing all of your workouts in order to get a pump may be missing the boat as far as the progressive overload component goes and actually adding muscle tissue. So realistically, you shouldn't, regardless of what rep range you do, if you're training till failure, if you're, especially if you're going heavy, you're going to probably get a pump. You don't have to do 20 rep, 30 rep, 40 rep sets in order to get that pump, as long as you're well hydrated, have a good electrolyte balance, and you're pushing yourself in the gym. But chasing the pump and doing everything lightweight, higher reps to try to get a good pump probably isn't going to allow you to progress as much as the heavier training would. At least that's my experience with myself, my clients, and then also people that I've networked with.
right. I agree.
And there's a lot of science that supports it too, that says, obviously there's some benefit to having that cellular swelling and the hyperemia where you're, have this excess of blood flow to a particular tissue. But again, the foundation has to be the basics, the heavier training, the heavy compound movements seem to yield the best results overall.
Right.
That's it.
So I did have to make like a diet substitution already here, which
Sure.
was kind of whatever. I didn't want to, but because it was one of the things I didn't want to substitute off of my list. We go to the store and they don't have lemons here anywhere.
Really?
I went to two different stores, could not find a lemon to save my life. So I bought a big bag of limes, and I squeezed a lime into my apple cider vinegar this morning
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit of water, like I do every morning with lemon. And let me tell you, it actually made the apple cider vinegar like enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, the lime is just, I don't know, because it's still citrusy. It's really, tart, but it's way less. I've got less of a bite than a lemon.
And I'm a big supporter of any type of morning hydration, ideally with some sort of alkaline water, which, is the premise behind using the lemon there. And also, ideally warm water too, because it's going to act as a vasodilator, which is going to probably aid in nutrient absorption a little bit. But realistically, just any type of hydration in the morning is going to be magnificently beneficial for pretty much everybody, whether you're a serious athlete or not. That's most of pretty much every program that I have, whether it's, an elite level athlete, a competitive bodybuilder, or just, one of the general population people, just an average person trying to get in better shape and be healthier, usually every program I have, their nutrition protocol calls for some type of hydration first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing you wrote on my diet. You're like, what feels like years ago, which really wasn't. But my first diet from you ever was wake up in the morning, 500 milliliters of warm water with a fresh organic lemon.
Yep.
And I called you. I was like, "What do you mean? I got to peel and eat a lemon?" And you were like, "No, squeeze it in the water."
And that's something
Okay.
that's easy because, like, usually when I start off with people, and I've talked about this on previous episodes, you always try to make the lifestyle change habitual. So usually most people can benefit just from upping their hydration and, having a higher water intake and a better electrolyte balance. So when you do that, you it's one meal, I guess, if you could call it a meal. It might be a misnomer because there's not like necessarily macronutrient value in water, obviously, but having the water first thing in the morning is something that can become habitual for people, and they can do it and they can benefit a ton from it. So then afterwards, after a couple weeks, once that becomes habit, you don't have to worry about them forgetting it or missing it anymore. So then you can add something else and kind of create steps. So it's always fix the simplest thing and the most beneficial things first. It's kind of like a sliding scale or like a hierarchy where I have to look for the things that are easiest to fix and the most important and try to target those first and then kind of branch out from there. And it's funny because you'd be surprised at the things that people need the most, like as far as like dietary considerations or training considerations or, cardiovascular improvement or fat loss or whatever you're doing with people. Usually the basics are the easiest things to implement, and they take the least amount of like calculations or anything like that. It's very, very simple, can be done pretty easy. And hydration is always atop the list for everybody.
Right.
And like
Absolutely.
thinking about you and vacation, I've kind of gone back on this a multitude of times personally, where you have people that go on vacation and you always there's two sides to the coin here, where you have one camp that says, well, vacation, that's no excuse to come off the diet and not, attain your goals, because there's people out there that are pushing and striving to compete against you, and they are not going on vacation and coming off their diet. So that's not an excuse to where you have to just like completely let everything go to the wayside. But then you have another camp too, which I can also subscribe to occasionally, where it's the purpose of a vacation is to take a break. And sometimes that's not just physical break, that's a mental break too. There's been periods of times with Austin, my coach, where he and I have done like a diet break where basically, I take a couple days. I think the longest we did was like a 3-day break where it was just eat whatever you want, whenever you want. It wasn't like a cheat day necessarily where I had to continue to force food and push for high calories, but like, hey, you've been doing a good job. This is kind of stressful for you. You're going to be traveling this weekend. Just kind of do your own thing. Now that's far and few between, but when we've done that, it's always been beneficial to me, because when I get back, from my diet break, whether it's like a hiatus of 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, like I'm more than ready to start back on my plan. Like I'm sure you can agree with that. When you get off track, you want to get back on track right away, mentally more than anything.
Oh man, no doubt. Like especially like the first few days, like if you've like the first few days of quarantine this year, whenever I whatever slipped off my diet some, I was like, ooh, I gotta go. I have got to go to the grocery store because this is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like eating whatever is just not for me anymore. It's not even in the cards.
Yep.
Like I think if you called me and said, after this podcast and stuff, you call me and say, hey man, you know what, you're on vacation, you should really enjoy yourself. Go to the bar, drink some beers, eat some wings. I don't think that would be the case. I don't think I could.
Yeah.
Like I plan on relaxing a little and enjoying myself, but I have to try to stay to that structure a little bit. I don't think I'm ready to allow myself to get off track too much.
Well, for some people too, it's like give an inch, take a mile. When you let them off track, then it turns into a slippery slope and they start to go crazy.
Right.
And I can't point fingers because, I'm just as guilty as anybody. Like, I don't know if he's ever heard this story. I don't know if I ever went into full detail about it. I know I told him that I probably had more than I should, but we were, probably, I don't want to misspeak and say a wrong period of time, but I was probably around 5 weeks out from a show, and Austin, my coach, was like, "Hey, man, have a cheat meal." He said, "Have whatever you want. Go to like Texas Roadhouse, get a burger and fries." And I said, "Can I have a pop? Like, where are the limitations here?" He said, "Have whatever you want." He's like, "Just don't be an idiot." And I said, "Okay." I could interpret what he means by that, especially knowing Austin. So long story short, I ended up going to eat, and I had, I think, 12 rolls, because I ended up having 3 or 4 baskets, which was like 12 to 16 rolls just before dinner came alone. And I remember I was sitting with my friend TJ at the time, and he said to me, "Hey, I think that eating 12 or 16 rolls, I think that classifies as being an idiot, which where you're not supposed to be." So, it's just, I overdid it, which I shouldn't have. Now, granted, it's not like there were huge negative ramifications of one meal, but I've seen that happen where people get off track and then it's like they start falling and they can't catch themselves.
Right. That's cool that TJ spoke up and said, "Hey, man, he's probably enough."
Yeah. Because I mean, honestly, at that point, I was ready to keep going. I would probably
Right.
wouldn't have stopped.
Right. When we were planning this vacation, my best friend's coming with us. They're actually coming down a couple of days after us, and our families do everything together. So we just figured we're not going to go out to eat. We're not going to go do crazy stuff because of the virus.
Uh-huh.
So we decided that we're just going to cook and do communal meals amongst ourselves. So like he's making a meal for everybody one night. His wife's making one. I'm making one, and my wife's making one. And then so on and so forth. We're just going to rotate through. And when it came time for my meal, I said, "Well, I'll just make spaghetti, meatballs, and garlic bread, because everybody likes that. It's nice and easy, and I can eat the meatballs. So we'll make it work." But before I even got that part out, he was like, "Yeah, no, that's not going to work." And I'm like, "Why?" And he was like, "Well, you can't have pasta, you can't have garlic bread, and that's just not a good idea." And I was like, "Exactly, I'm gonna eat the salad and the meatballs." And he's like, "Oh, okay." But I was like thinking about, like, that's cool to have people in your corner like that. People that are willing to tell you, "Hey, bruh, no, that's
It's
not a good
always,
idea."
yeah. And I was talking to somebody about this topic at the gym just earlier last week, how I've had the luxury of doing this long enough where the people that I've surrounded myself with, not only my family, but my close friends, they understand. So when you go into a situation where you're undergoing like a contest prep, or you're trying to lose weight, or you're completely restructuring what you do, people look at you and they're confused. It's almost like they're borderline offended that you don't want to do things with it. Like, what do you mean you don't want to go out to eat? You can't just have one cheat meal. You can't just do this. You can't just do that, because they don't understand it. It's completely foreign to them. They've never done it before themselves. So understandably, they're not going to get it. Whereas I have had the luxury where I've done this long enough and surrounded myself with people that know what they're doing or know what I'm doing. So they can say, "Oh, that's just how Charlie eats." Or like, and it's even come to the point like at school where with my kids, they'll say, if I don't start eating at a certain time, they'll say, "Hey coach, it's 9:30. Are you going to eat now? Like, don't you have to eat now?" Where they keep me on like a meal schedule just because they've been around it for so long, which is really cool to have fifth graders holding you accountable for meal timing. But it's really, really convenient that my family and my friends are kind of on board with it. And partially, I think I have to pat myself on the back. Part of that's because number one is I set the standard with myself, and they know that I'm not going to waver from the standard. So maybe they don't even bother bugging me, because it's like, "Oh, he's not going to say yes, so we might as well just let it go." And then also the fact that I've surrounded myself with people like that, which you've obviously done the same.
Right, absolutely. And that's the key is to always. I like to go back to that. When I was a kid, my mom used to tell me, "Birds of a feather flock together."
Yep.
You are the people you put yourself around. So even if you are an amazing human and you surround yourself with poor quality people, and I used to think that was harsh of her, but what she meant was people that make poor decisions or poor choices in life, then you are automatically associated with that. Even if they're just your friend and you don't actually do any of the same stuff, you're automatically thought of as, "Oh, he's not good company." And I enjoy knowing that the people I surround myself with are going to make the right decisions 90% of the time. Obviously, I think we all make a bad decision from time to time, but the people that I'm around, and because I selectively, I don't let too many people into my circle for that reason, because I don't want to be thought of as something bad because of somebody else's actions.
Yeah,
So,
and the saying that I like that goes, I mean, it's comparable to what you said is, now I'm not sure where this originated. I think that it was Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell that, I don't know if he necessarily coined it himself, but he definitely popularized it. Was if you run with the lame, you develop a limp. And I love that, just because if you surround yourself and you find yourself in the company of people who are weak-minded or make poor decisions, then you're probably going to succumb to that yourself and make the same poor choices. And we are all who we surround ourselves with, and a lot of times you're going to get grouped into guilt by association. Even if you don't make the same poor decisions, if you're hanging out with those types of people, then you're going to get labeled as such, even though you may not be doing it. And I think that's super important as far as a message goes to younger kids and younger adults, that you're going to be looked at in similar fashion to the people that you hang out with. So even if those people that you're hanging out with aren't necessarily, or you're not doing the same things that they are, I think you're going to kind of be grouped in categorically just, by process of you being around them. It's like guilt by association almost.
Absolutely. I think I really like that hang what is it?
You run with
Run
the
with
lame, you
those.
develop a limp.
Yeah. I really like that, and that really resonates in the training world, because when you pick a training partner and they don't have the same level of knowledge or the ability or drive, whatever. Like, I look at training as like a um three-part thing. To me, it's, you have to have the knowledge of what to do, you have to have the ability to do the workout, and you have to have the drive to want to do the workout, to actually want to execute every movement to its fullest. And I know I learned that part from you, watching you train, even with 5-pound dumbbells. If you're curling a 5-pound dumbbell, you're squeezing it, you're shaking, you're gritting your teeth, you're focused on what you're doing. You're never, like, watching Charlie work out is never swinging weights and humping them up, and it's always focused and purpose driven, and that's the drive to me. It's being purpose driven on everything I do. So if
Now
you
I want
have
to
all
touch
three
on
of
that.
them.
I want to touch on that a little bit further here in a minute, as far as the what you dedicate to training, because that's kind of an analogy for all of life here. But even specific to the training, that's why I think training partners are so important, because it's not necessarily, I never try to find training partners that can hang with me strength wise. I know that that's something that a lot of people like, oh, it's always good to have someone stronger than you, because that's going to push you a little bit more. And I agree with that to an extent. I mean, it's not necessarily for me personally, because it doesn't matter if my training partners are twice as strong or twice as weak. That's not going to dictate or change how hard I push myself anyway. What I look for in a training partner is accountability. Like, are they there on time? Are they going to be there frequently, like when they say they're going to be there? And then number two, do they respect the focus? So like for me, like I'm very focused when I train, and yeah, I can talk and, goof around. It's not like I'm making this to be more impactful than it is. But at the same time, I look at it as a job. Like, especially when you compete, it's very easy for people who don't get on stage to, have a workout that doesn't go well, or to just take this one easy or take this week easy. Whereas unfortunately, I can't afford to do that, because I'm going to be placing myself in front of judges, in front of, hundreds of people that see me in posing trunks. So if I take days off or weeks off, it'll show on stage, where I can't afford that mentally or physically. So for me, I need someone who's going to keep me focused. And that's been, an issue that even with the best training partners, you've had to reel in and say, hey, you're here for a reason and I'm here for a reason. So if your reason and my reason are different, then we're going to have to end this, or you can keep training. And like I said, that doesn't matter if you're the worst training partner I've had or the best training partner I've had. I've had to get on everybody at some point. And also, I'm sure that they've gotten on me at times too. I don't want to make it sound like I'm this guy who will always train 1,000%. I try to be, but there's times where I slip up too. And I hope that if I'm messing up or not staying focused, that I would want somebody to call me out on it too. Right. I mean, that's like with
Right.
everything in life.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want somebody. I don't like yes men. I don't like guys to train with, or girls even. I don't like training partners that are going to be like, "Yeah, buddy, you're doing the best you can." You know what I mean? Like, no. I need to be pushed. So I like that guy, that person who's gonna be there and push me because they know I can get more, or they know that I'm not giving enough effort. They hold me accountable. I like that accountability analogy. Just to make yourself accountable. That's what a training partner is all about.
Well, then a lot of
Otherwise,
it's on you, because you got to be receptive to that too. Like if somebody's
right,
going to call me out and say, "Hey, that wasn't a good set. You weren't focused, or this wasn't tight, or your technique wasn't where it should have been, or your form wasn't great, or that was too heavy, or that was too light." Like, that's great that they call it out, but I have to be receptive to that. So I'm never going to be one to say, "Oh, well, you're not as good of a bodybuilder as I am, so I'm not going to listen to you." I mean, you could be the weakest guy in the gym, and if you tell me something that you think that I need fixed, I'll look at it. Now, I may disagree with you and say, "Well, I disagree because of X, Y, and Z." But if you're going to call it to my attention, I'm definitely going to consider it. So I have to
right.
be open-minded enough with my training partners to actually listen to what they say, because it's one thing to, call them out and have them call you out, but then you also got to fix it if there's a problem.
Right. Absolutely.
That's
I'm
why I
actually
like training footage so much, is because for me, it serves as like, oh, let's see how that set looked. Because internally it may have felt great, but maybe you can see minor nuance of a lift that was off or less than perfect. And it's like, okay, my execution wasn't to a T there. I'm going to have to go back and readjust on my next set or next week on the same exercise or whatever.
right. That's the thing. I never realized how much I enjoyed looking at, like, critiquing my own workout. And so the training footage is very important. So that's why it's been so easy for me to post on social media, because I record almost every one of my workouts, like, because I want to see, because a lot of times I'm by myself.
Yeah.
So there's not somebody there saying, "Ooh, that looked like it hurt," because, like, I know it hurt. It felt bad. So why? What? So if nobody was there, I need to be able to record it and look at it and say, "Oh yeah, I'm dipping my shoulder," or whatever. And it's hard. It was hard for me to get over that, though, at first. When I first started recording work, like, certain sets and certain movements, because you can't help but think you're the douchey guy. The guy that's always looking in the mirror at himself, or always nitpicking exactly what he's doing. And it's like, that's not what I'm doing at all. I promise.
Yeah.
I'm this is purpose driven. I want to make sure I want to make sure that I'm not wasting my time. So, like, if I'm here, I want to make sure I'm optimizing what I'm doing while I'm here.
I think for me, that was one of my main reservations on posting training footage initially. Like, even with pictures, like when I would take progress pictures, I did it in the back room of the gym, and I'm not self-conscious about the way I look, for sure, but I was self-conscious in what people's perception of that is. Like when they see me taking pictures, like, I hate when people say, "Oh, he thinks he's so big," or "He thinks he's this great bodybuilder," and stuff, where realistically, if you ask anybody, the most hypercritical person of me is going to be me. I don't think that at all by any means. Like, I don't think I'm great. Like, I always am trying to get better. Then the reason I'm taking these pictures aren't to show off. If I wanted to show off, I'd take them out in the middle of the gym. I wouldn't come into the back room and wear a hoodie and sweatpants in the gym and then go to my posing trunks for photos. If I wanted to show off, I would. So, like, with the
Right.
training footage, I didn't want to post videos because, number one, it was a little bit distracting to me. Like, I like to stay focused and not have to take the time to try to record my workouts and my lifts. But moreover, a lot of it was because, I don't want to say, like, people to look at that and say, "Oh my gosh, why is this guy recording his videos? Like, he just wants to put them on Instagram and stuff," which, truthfully, that's part of it, because now that I'm trying to expand my social media outreach a little bit, that's kind of something that goes into it. For sure. But why is that? Why am I putting on Instagram? Why is he doing this?
When you're driven to help people, as you are, the only way to help more people than you already are is to expand your outreach.
Yeah.
And people just don't understand that. People don't get that there's a huge community of people that need help, not our help, everybody's help. They need somebody. Because I really believe it. Everybody has the ability to help somebody.
Yep.
And if everybody really were to reach for somebody to help, we wouldn't be in a like crazy time in this country, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like the posting on Instagram or on Facebook, you know, what I'm doing, you know, like my post this morning was simple. It was just a picture when I was getting ready to start my run, and it just said live your best life, because that's literally what a lot of people need to hear is you can only control what you can control. So what you can control, make it the best you possibly can, and everything else will fall in line the best it can.
Yep.
And that's something that I needed to hear 5 years ago. You know, I probably wouldn't have got to 526 pounds if I would have heard, live your best life, dude. You're worth doing what you need to do to make yourself happy.
Mm-hmm.
I might not have gotten to the point where I was. You know, it's that's why I do what I do as far as posting on Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat, and like I just, as much as I can spread that goodness, that self worth, I'm gonna spread it like word vomit. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like I don't know. I can't say. I can't. Sometimes I can't even put it into words what I'm thinking, but because it's like it's so important to tell somebody, because you might tell 50 people that don't need to hear it or think they don't need to hear it, but the 51st person could possibly be in a really, really dark place, and whatever you have to say might be the thing that triggers them to come up into the light.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
And I mean,
sorry, I get on a tangent sometimes.
no, I think that's a good point. You know, we try to target a wide array of people, and hopefully we're somewhat impactful with the people that we reach on this podcast. But, you know, realistically, if you would ask both you and I, hey, you know, you had 500 downloads on this episode. So out of those 500 people, only one person was affected or took something away from it. Obviously, we would hope for more, but that would be enough for us to continue and keep going if it was just one person that got something from it.
You know, I would take it even farther, that if at the end of 52 weeks this year, we have 10,000 downloads, say, and only one person took something from it, it was a success and worth it every minute for me.
Yeah.
Because that one person is worth my time, in my opinion, and your time. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel about it. So, like, that's why I love it. Like, whenever it comes time on Saturday to record our podcast, I'm like, let's do it.
Yep.
It's go time.
And realistically, that's just you reciprocating the favor that you once had. Not that it was anyone in particular that gave you the spur or the spark of motivation to kind of get you started. But, you know, you've alluded to on several episodes, people that you look to as influential components for your journey, and different motivational speakers that you've listened to, and different, you know, social media platforms or accounts that you've followed. And those people have played like a vital role in your progression. And, you know, it's the same thing with me. And I think that you would just be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't offer your help to other people. Like, I remember one of the first things you told me about, you know, not just the podcast, but about improving yourself in general. You said, I have this desire and this really, really, you know, burning fire to help someone. I just don't know who to help or how to help them, but I feel like I need to help someone.
Yeah.
And now at this point in your life, you found like multiple avenues to do so, with the podcast and your weight loss, and, you know, with firefighting and everything. I mean, it's like one thing after the other. You just kind of keep finding new ways to help people.
Yeah, that's exactly it too, man. That's the reason why we started this podcast, and that's the reason why I joined the fire department. It was somewhere where I found that I could actually make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you need somebody that's got a big, strong back that can pick something up. And I'm not patting myself on the back saying I'm super strong, but the big guy in the room is usually the one looked to pick something up, right? So, like, I feel like that's something I can do. I can help you. If somebody needs help, I can help. And that's why I was attracted to it. Not to mention the pretty fire trucks and the loud whistles and the lights and stuff.
Yeah,
trigger my inner child. So, yeah, man.
So sticking along those lines, I don't know if this is something that you wanted to discuss or not, because realistically, you kind of ran it by me when we were looking at scheduling some things in the future, but you said that there were 2 weekends next month. Yeah,
Yeah,
next
yeah.
month that you were busy. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been on Glenmore Volunteer Fire Department for about 4 months.
Has it been that
And
long already? Holy
I
cow.
think so, because it was March. It was the first week of March. It was like 2 weeks before COVID happened.
Okay.
So whenever that was is whenever I went on a Thursday night and I put in an application. They were actually in a meeting. They voted me in. I got my gear in a locker and I was ready. I was a firefighter in about 25 minutes.
Wow.
So it was really surreal. But yeah, so going back to it, I've been on the department for like 4 months and it's been awesome. But I'm what you would call a recruit. And so all I'm doing is I'm the tool guy. I help everybody do their job, the ones that are certified and can actually fight fire or do the things that they do. Um, I'm there. I try to make myself available and I'm willing and ready to do what I have to do to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I get back from vacation, the second or the third week of September, I will be taking my 36-hour entry level firefighter class. So it's a 36-hour course where you learn the basics. Basically it's called a basic firefighter, and it's nothing super special, but it is super special to me because it's going to allow me to be that much more available to help people. So respond to a call, and now I'll be able to actually go inside and help fight fire if needed, or whatever the chief or the guys need me to do.
Well, I think it
So
exemplifies the progress you've made physically too.
oh man, yeah, for sure.
For someone who had a tough time walking into the grocery store, now you can actually get to the point where you're going to go into like, a very, very physically demanding situation, a very, very, high alert and dangerous situation and perform physically at it. That's pretty impressive to say the least.
Yeah, it's something. So kind of to get off topic for a second, off of that topic, I learned of a term not too long ago called body dysmorphia.
Uh-huh.
And where it is one thinks that they look a certain way that they don't look anymore, basically.
Yep.
And I never subscribed to stuff like that because I don't feel like that's real. But it really is. I've met a few people recently who you can see somebody judge you, right? You're like, that's happening. And I'm to the point now where I'll call somebody out on it. If you're judging me, I'm going to call you out on it because I want to have a conversation with you. Because maybe if you're casting judgment on somebody, maybe you need help with something on your end. And I can't remember a site and time, but somebody said something, and I'm like, wow, that really is real because I'm not what they see. You know what I mean? Like the one guy was sizing me up because he thought he was way bigger than me. And I'm like, no, dude, you got that backwards. Like, I am twice the size this guy is. So I actually asked one of my friends, and he said, no, you're not even close. And I'm like, what? Like, because I don't see it. You know what I mean? So, like, people, I still feel like, so you brought up physically being able to do the job of firefighting. I still feel like, every time that we go and do something, I'm like, oh man, this is not going to be easy because I'm really big, in the back of my mind. And then when we start doing the action, it's like, not as big as I thought it was. Mm-hmm. All right. You know what I mean? So like I used to be terrified of heights. And we did a ladder drill where it was a bailout training where you have last ditch effort. You either burn up or you jump out the window. Right.
Yep.
So I'm afraid of heights, and I climbed up the ladder and went inside, and then they simulate, they basically just say, oh, it's on fire. It's whatever. It's evac. And you have to jump out the window and do a certain thing with the ladder where you swing off the side to turn around. You nose dive out. And I did it. not pretty, but I did it. And in my head, I thought I was going to be the guy that wasn't going to be able to fit through the window without really being strategic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, but I did it, and everybody was like clapped and stuff and thought it was cool. And I was like, man, you guys don't even understand, because in my head, this was going to be a very huge, embarrassing failure. And it was just a kind of not, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's just a, to me, it's a testament to people that don't judge yourself by what you feel like you look like, or by what you feel like you can do. Put yourself to the test and see what you can do. See what you look. You know what I mean? Like, don't judge your own book by its cover, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always like that saying, don't judge a book by its cover. But a lot of times we have to look at ourselves as a book and read a little bit of it. Live a little bit of our own life before we start judging what we can and can't do.
Yep, I agree. Very important. Especially in bodybuilding. And I see that happen all the time in bodybuilding, where you have the competitive element to it. And of course you're going to, be self-conscious about how you look. And I tell everybody that every show I've ever won, I was last place backstage.
Right.
So when I get backstage and everybody's pumping up and getting their oil on and, doing their last minute protocols as far as like food intake or whatever, and I'm back there getting ready backstage, and I think, oh my goodness, these guys are going to kill me. Like, I'm not in good enough shape. I'm not big enough. I don't look good enough or whatever. And every show that I've ever won, like I said, I've always been last place in my own head backstage.
Right.
Which, you never want to be like that, but unfortunately it happens to the best of us.
It's so natural to second guess yourself. I'd almost be afraid. And I know there's some people like this that are super successful, but I'd almost be afraid if I thought that I was the bee's knees. If I went into something thinking, oh, I got this licked, I would almost be afraid that I'm going to really mess up. You know what I mean? Because I'm so used to second guessing and doubting myself that if I had an exuberant amount of confidence, I would be nervous that I was going to fall short on that too.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
All right, man. Well, I think that's a pretty good place to end it. I'm not sure on our time here, because now that we're doing Zoom, it hasn't recorded my time right directly in front of me, but I think that we're probably roughly about 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, I'd say so. I figured one last thing is, if you're putting yourself into a situation that is different than your day to day, find a way to find one piece of every day and do it. If that can be walking, like if it's a fitness thing and you work out every single day, but you go on vacation and there's literally no way you can work out, there is a way you can get out, walk, and go for a walk. It's something as small as substituting one thing to make sure you don't get clear off track, because progress is not going to go away overnight. That's just my thought of how I'm going to always take a little step back.
Well, and because, you got to remember that negative or positive body change and mental change doesn't happen, like you said, overnight. It doesn't get real good overnight, and it doesn't get real bad overnight. So just continue to have a progressive mindset, understand that you're going to have setbacks, but as long as the arrow of best fit is always trending up, then, and as long as the steps forward outweigh the steps back, then the ultimate result is going to be progress in anything that you do.
That's it.
All right.
What you used to tell me, the trend is my friend.
Yes, absolutely. Couldn't be any truer. So before we wrap up shop, we have to give a shout out to Beast Mode Baking, which is our sponsor for the show. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course, delicious baked goods to you and your home with nationwide shippings. All orders are for pre-order to ensure they are packed fresh and shipped out to you ASAP. They offer a flat rate of $15 due to the size and weight of the cookies and the doughs. So if you are interested in ordering some great tasting and even great looking desserts, please contact our sponsor, Beast Mode Baking, and you can do that through Shannon Knorr. That's at SKNORR13 on Instagrams, and Shannon will hook you up.
Yes.
All right, man.
I can't wait for a cheat meal because I'm going to try one of them cookies someday.
Oh, they look lovely. Well, I think that pretty much wraps her up, man. Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Yes, and I'll talk to you Saturday from wonderful Myrtle Beach.
Yep. And I will be in rural Ohio holding down the fort, I guess.
Right on.
All right, guys. So with that, we have come to the end of yet another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast. This has been episode 40 with Charlie and Justin. We thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week. Unbreakable, unstoppable, I'm pushed to the edge and